I need a haircut so freaking bad. What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, and today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 because a new report was just published that seems to confirm the price tag, the release date, and the fact that there may be some unpredictable problems when it comes to the launch of the PS5. And some of this stuff has me a little bit concerned, especially for fans who definitely want this thing day freaking one. Now, we're going to be going through this article, but I just want to say right up front, everything is definitely subject to change. Bloomberg has some great leaks, they have some great sources, but right now, let's just keep in mind, because of this virus, everything is constantly being shuffled around. I mean, that's kind of the worst part about all this, is that we really can't even know what to expect when it comes to tomorrow, but especially not with stuff that may be happening in 6 or 7 months. The fact that we haven't seen the PlayStation 5 or anything like that seems like it could be just because things over at Sony headquarters are definitely not business as usual. But let's look at this article because it kind of has some stuff that has me baffled and yet curious. Sony plans limited supply of PlayStation 5 output in the first year. Sony Corp plans to produce far fewer units of its upcoming PlayStation 5 in its first year than the previous generation console's launch, according to people familiar with the matter. The Tokyo-based tech giant is limiting its initial production run in part because it expects the PlayStation 5's ambitious specs to weigh on demand by leading to a high price at launch, the people said, asking not to be identified because the subject is private. The global virus pandemic has affected Sony's promotional plans for the new device, but not its production capacity. So essentially, what they're already saying is that the fact that they haven't come out and talked about the system more or given us giant cool trailers with actors playing it in big stadiums and stuff like that, the way they've advertised other consoles, is because, quite frankly, they can't. The PS5 is, I guess, moving along at a proper rate. They're trying to make it. They're finishing up the system, but it seems like there's unforeseen issues when it just comes to the advertising aspect. The company has told assembly partners that it would make 5 to 6 million units of the PS5 in the fiscal year ending March 2021, according to people involved with the machine's supply chain. When Sony released the PlayStation 4 in November 2013, it sold 7.5 million units in the first 2 quarters. Now, here's the thing that I feel like a lot of people, especially if you're a newer gamer, which I actually talked to a lot of newer gamers, a bunch of people, when the Nintendo Switch launched, it kind of like got them back into this ecosystem. So a lot of you may have forgotten there were actually issues with console shortages when it came to the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, but to a lesser degree back in 2013. Now, this was not substantial. If you wanted a PlayStation 4, you could find it, but for that first couple months, there were shortages. There was stuff where it was difficult to try and track them down because a lot of times this stuff was definitely selling faster than they were able to keep up. Even I myself, I ended up having to spend a lot of money to make sure I pre-ordered it and paid it off in full because certain places weren't honoring pre-orders unless you fully paid it off. And so it makes me think that with PlayStation, this time around, the PS5 may become an even rarer item, especially for this first holiday. The PS5's loftier price tag may also deter initial take-up. Game developers who have been creating titles for the PlayStation 5 anticipate its price to be in the region of $500 to $550. And Bloomberg's intelligence, Matthew Kinterberg, points to the increased component costs pushing up the price required for Sony to break even. Sony has struggled with its price-setting decisions for the PlayStation 5 because of scarce components, Bloomberg News has reported. Now, this right here is by far the most interesting aspect because it seems like a lot of people are going back and forth. To me, the PlayStation 5 being $500 is a lot of money. $500 is a big steep price tag, but it seems like a lot of people, especially hardcore gamers and stuff, they're willing to pay it. I've actually tweeted about this stuff in the past, and almost everybody who, the people who watch my content and stuff, I feel like we're definitely the most hardcore gaming demographic. We're the people who play games 40 hours, 80 hours a week. We're waking up, we're beating games, we're trying to platinum stuff, we're out here trying to get multiple controllers, we're beating games day one. We are the hardcore demographic. And it seems like that people, everybody is kind of on board with the idea of a $500 price tag. But I still think that casual gamers, which are a huge and very, very important part of the economy, casual gamers are probably going to balk at a $500 console. I mean, the fact that you can get a Nintendo Switch Lite for $200, I think that it's going to be a little bit of a steep price when people kind of compare it to other things. Now, there's one last part of this that's incredibly interesting and something I guess I'd never really thought about, which is how they're going to try and phase people into the PlayStation 5 ecosystem. Sony's strategy, according to several people familiar with its plans, will be to rely on incumbent PlayStation 4 models as a bridge to get new users onto the PlayStation 4 platform's network services while the PS5 remains in limited supply. Currently, Sony sells the PlayStation 4 for $300 and a higher-end PS4 Pro for $400. The company may cut these prices around the times of the PlayStation 4 of launch to stimulate new subscribers to the PlayStation Plus program. This is something I never would have thought of. It seems so backwards in a way, but what this is saying right here in a fancy Bloomberg style is they're saying there are tons of PlayStation 4s that are already made. There are factories, there are warehouses, there's piles and piles and piles of PlayStation 4s up to the ceiling. So at this point, that stuff, it's already produced. It's free cost. Those games, that stuff is already being done. The development, the shipping, everything is already completed. So it sounds like what they want to try and do is get these piles and piles of already existing PlayStation 4s and cut the price. Maybe they'll try and make it where the PlayStation 4 suddenly becomes $200 instead. That way, when it comes to this holiday, people, no matter what, will be purchasing some sort of PlayStation device, either the PS4 or the PS5. This is kind of a strange strategy, but it also a little bit makes sense. The more I sit here and kind of ponder it, let's face facts, the PlayStation 5 is not going to be flooded with games at the start. No console that's ever been released has more than like 10 games for the first couple of months, because obviously a big thing is people haven't had time to develop it. The newest hardware is always something that people are trying to grow and adapt and use. It makes sense that Sony is going to try and lean on the backwards compatibility. Pretty much everybody thought this, but obviously when the PlayStation 5 comes out, I mean, the biggest thing we're going to be playing is PlayStation 4 games. I have a pretty decent PlayStation 4 library. If you count all my physical and digital PlayStation 4 games, I have over 400 PlayStation 4 games, which boggles even my mind when I think about it. But whenever it comes to the PlayStation 5, most of what I'm going to be playing on my PS5 for the first couple of months is going to be PS4 games. So I feel like it kind of makes sense that Sony is just going to come out here and say, hey, we have a $200 console that plays PlayStation 4 games, and we have a $500 console that'll play all future PS5 games and also all of your current PS4 games. While all of this certainly seems logical, at least on the surface, there is just the problem of unpredictability. I mean, right now, we still don't know if this virus is going to get better or if it's going to get worse. It seems like things are definitely improving, but one bad outbreak could completely just stall the next generation for a full year. And they talk about that here. The production volume still could change depending on the virus situation, the people said. Sony has asked employees to work from home to mitigate the spread of the virus, and the board has been unable to meet with approved business plans for the current fiscal year, including those of the PlayStation unit. The meeting was originally supposed to take place in March. Sony has said last month that it's released the plans to result for the end of March on April 30th, but may be forced to push back that date due to the pandemic. So that's kind of the thing. Obviously, they want to show this stuff off. They want to talk about it. They want to try and show you everything about it. While only a small circle within Sony are privy to the appearance of the PS5 console, the controller has been shared with outside developers, and the company feared it couldn't control the leaks. The final thing they put here, which is kind of funny, is that basically, apparently Sony is kind of just saying, we're not going to delay the PS5 unless they delay the Xbox One. They realize that the Christmas season is such a huge and important quarter, they're not going to delay it unless they absolutely have to, or if Microsoft pushes theirs back. It's kind of fun to think about the fact that there is a little bit of a console war starting to brew. I feel like Sony and Microsoft are kind of judging each other already, circling each other, counting their steps, and worrying about what the other person is doing. I'm kind of curious how this all comes out. I'm curious what comes out, and most importantly, I'm curious if they can stick to that PlayStation 5 at $500. I've already heard some people who are working on it saying $500 is on the low end. Even then, they're going to be losing some money every time they produce one, but I guess we're going to know very, very soon. As I always say, Sony, show us the freaking box. Give me a good peek at that PlayStation console. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. What do you think? Are you ready for the PlayStation 5? Are you going to pre-order it? Because at this point, we definitely need to, since there's going to be so few of them. Or are you going to pass and wait to see what it comes out looking like? Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh, I think I need to... I don't know how I'm going to cut my hair. I guess I'm going to have to buy a razor and shave my head. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.